joining me today, you're here for the second part of building a sketchbook, which means we're going to be sewing our signatures together so that we have the guts of our sketchbook. So cool. So the very first thing you want to do is count out 2 stacks of 10. So you have 10 sheets of paper in one stack and 10 sheets of paper in the second stack. We're going to do 2 signatures. Once you've done that, you're going to take each piece of paper separately. You don't want to fold them together. And you're going to fold them in half. And after you have folded them in half, you want to crease, use the back of your thumbnail and really make a nice good crease. All right. Once I have all of my paper folded, then I'm going to slip them one by one inside of each other. So this would go here and another page would go here and so forth and so on until you have 10 sheets of stacked paper when they're opened up like so and you have the crease. But I did want to share this other sketchbook just to give you an idea. This one is made with 8.5 by 14 paper. So you can see it's a little bit smaller, but it gives you some pretty good surface for drawing. If I use 8.5 by 11, it's a lot thinner and maybe not so much surface. You know what? Doesn't matter. You are the controller of what you build. Now, take one set of signatures and open them up. Lay a ruler so it's flush with the inside middle crease. And once you do that, we're going to measure at 1/2 increments. If you can look at this image here, it kind of shows you how to do that. But the long mark at each number is 1 inch. Then there's a longer mark kind of between the numbers. So if you look between, let's say, 8 and 7, there's a longer mark right in the middle, and that's where the 1/2 inch increment is. When you're done, your little dots should look like this. Alrighty, now comes the fun part. We get to sew. So the first thing you need is, of course, a needle that has an eye that's big enough that you can thread the thread through. I'm choosing a colored thread, so hopefully you can see it better as I'm sewing. And what I want to do is I want to measure, so from shoulder, my shoulder here, to fingertip, okay? I stretch that out, and I'm going to double that, so I'm going to do it again. All right, and then I'm going to do it one more time. Now, for those of you that have really, really long arms, that may be too much, but that gives you kind of a good idea. Oops, I can't reach my scissors. Oh dear. And then I'm going to cut. And really, what I want this thread to do is be able to sew this way, you know, twice, okay? I know that doesn't make any sense, but it will. So, I'm going to thread this needle. Now, I can't see anymore. My eyesight is bad, so I tend to take this thread and I pinch it all the way to my thumb and finger, and then I just push that needle on top of it, and voila, it's threaded. Okay, that just helps me out. Now, if you can see, because you have young eyes, and then the next thing I want to do is I want to take the ends of the thread and put them together. So I am matching the ends of the thread here, like so. Okay, until that needle. So that's double. It's called double threading. All right. All right. And then I want to tie a knot. Well, there's a lot of different ways to tie a knot. You can do like the quilting people do, and you can take your thread, which is really actually very cool. So now I have my needle. I have the ends of my thread here. I'm going to place them on top just like so, and I'm going to hold it, okay? And I want a little bit of a tail, so actually I'm going to push that over, okay, before I do this. I'm going to hold it about right here, and then I'm going to wrap the thread around the needle about 3 times. Then I'm going to take and hold my thumb and finger together and just slide. Now, the knot's not going to do anything really for you except help you feel when it pulls through. It's not going to stop. The holes are bigger than this knot. And I'm going to start on the outside of my book. So where that hole is, right there. Start on the outside. Like so. And I'm going to put my finger here as it's, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I'm putting my finger here until it stops. I can feel the knot. And I'm going to hold my finger here, okay? That way I'm holding that thread in place. Then I'm going to feed it through the next hole right here. And because I've pre-punched these holes, that needle's going in really easy. If I didn't pre-punch these holes, you would be poking yourself a lot and crying ouch a lot. Maybe some other choice words, I don't know, but it would hurt. So I'm just going to keep on going and just keep on going until I get this all the way down. Now, there's some things that will happen as you're sewing. Sometimes it'll bunch up like this. Sometimes it'll create a knot that you don't want. And I'm kind of hoping that it will create a knot for me so that I can show you how to undo it. But we'll see. Make it hung. You know, once I get started, I don't have to keep holding. You notice I'm not holding this anymore. I don't have to hold that thread. Okay, so I want to also check and make sure whenever I do this that I don't have any loose little things happening there. Yeah, it's going really easy. If you get a knot in your thread like this, you can take the needle and work it into the middle of the knot if it won't slip loose on its own, and kind of work that needle around until it loosens the knot, and then you can gently pull the threads apart so that the knot will disappear. Give that a try. So let's say that I have run out of thread, which I haven't, but let's say I have just because, you know. I never want to cut it real short here because if I do, then I have nothing to tie to. I've got to leave myself enough that I can tie. And so I'm going to cut it. And then you'll rethread. So you'll rethread. We'll assume that I've rethreaded this. So you have double. You don't have to tie a knot in this one now if you don't want to. Or you can if you want to make sure they kind of stay together. I'm going to take the ends of this now and come over here and okay, so cooperating here. It's a square knot. So right over left, and I'm going to loop this ends over underneath it here. So I'm looping it. Problem is there's 2 pieces and they are being a little bit cantankerous. Alright, I'm going to pull it as tight as I can to that hole, and left over right, that means I'm going to take this side now and go back over. I'm going to go back over this end here and loop it underneath again, like so. And of course, you know, because they're separated, they want to pull apart. So maybe it would be easier for you guys if you did tie a knot first. I don't know, maybe. But if I can just get them to, there we go, loop under. And then I will slide that together. All right, so now I'm back. And you know, you notice that you know, all these loose threads floating around. I wouldn't worry about cutting them right now because we don't want to get close to that knot and possibly have that pull through. So I'm going to continue my sewing. Okay, yeah. So now we have both signatures that have been sewn, and we are going to sew them together. So the first thing you'll do is decide which set goes on top. And this only happens like if you've already pre-drawn some pages. So I'm going to set these two together just like so. Okay, they're together. And then I'm going to thread my needle again. So this time I want to measure from shoulder to fingertip like I did before. Shoulder to fingertip like so. And about half that. I don't need quite as much thread for this procedure as I needed for sewing the individual signatures together. And now we're going to thread. Okay, so once again, the trick after you have threaded the needle is to bring the two ends of thread together and tie that knot. And once again, that knot's not going to do anything in terms of holding. It's not like when you're sewing fabric, you know. So, but I do want to have a tail. The tail is important, so I'm going to put this kind of toward the end there. I don't know if you can see. You can see that this is dangling here. I'm going to hold it right there on the end. And then I'm going to wrap it 2-3 times. And then push it down into my 2 fingers and pull. So I'm going to pull that thread. Oh, there it goes. Very gently until we have a knot. And this time, it worked good. So now I have a knot. Like so. Now, I'm right-handed, so the way I want to hold these is just like this. I'm going to hold it with my left hand so that the threaded spine here is on the right side. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to push it underneath that thread. So I'm not going through any paper whatsoever. It's through that first loop of thread. Come through and to the second loop of thread. And if I just pull, that knot's going to pull right through. So I want to pull until I can feel it. And I'm going to take my finger and hold it in place. And then I'm going to come underneath the next loop of thread. And again. And I just keep doing that all the way down. When I get to the end, I'm going to flip it and come back all the way, okay? But I want to show you what would happen if you're left-handed. So I'm going to pull this through. The beauty. So I have sewn way down one time. What I'll do now is flip it like so, and I just basically come through and do it again. And this time it should go faster. In fact, you don't even have to go through all of them that you just did if you don't want to. Basically, what you're trying to do is just get to the end that you began with so that you can tie it off. So once again, I'm going to go through and see how it's getting caught here? That'll frustrate you. If you'll hold it more like this, it won't be quite so bad, hopefully. So here I am. I'm at the part where I had to splice some thread, and that happened. So, because that happened and I'm close to the end, I'm just going to go ahead and tie it off. So I'm going to find this tail that I began right here, and I'm going to do a square knot. So once again, take and put one over the other and loop underneath. So I've got a nice good, there's that. And then I take the other side and I put that over and I tie it off. And I would do this more than once, and you know, you may have to work with it a little bit, like I'm having to work with it, but it'll work. Then I'll go the other direction and I'll be done. Now you have a set of pages that are sewn together and ready to glue inside our cover area. So, and I wouldn't worry about all this excess thread. When you do the gluing, we can push that up underneath and it will never show. That concludes the sewing part.